Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are, depending on where you are. My name is Gregory Skinner, VP of Strategic Insights here at Escalent, and happy to be back. If you've been to this summit before, I'm sure you've seen me. Happy to be back because today we're going to explore an interesting topic, which, of course, is this notion of growth and growth hotspots. Now, just a little bit more about myself, what I do at Escalent. So, first of all, Escalent is a global advisory and consulting service. It's a fancy way of saying that we do market research, everything from market forecasting to qualitative and quantitative analysis and advanced analytics. The interesting thing about my job and my role is that I am on the qualitative side, which means I am customer facing. So everything that you hear here today is me engaging stakeholders in the industry, talking to people at their place of work, on the ground, conducting focus groups and interviews with people who are doing real things. That's not to imply that we don't do real things at our business. It's just to say that, when you get in contact with people actually doing the things, there's this subtlety and nuance that comes out that you might not otherwise get. And that richness really helps us understand what we're doing in the marketplace and what you need to do. Now, one of the products that I manage, or one of the offerings I manage, is called Fleet Foresight. It's an event that we do 3 times a year, and of course, do it in collaboration with the CVBS. So happy to be back and happy to be talking about growth today. So, every 6 months, I get a note from Catherine or from the work truck crew, and they say, hey, there's a subject that we want to explore, and it might be, I don't know, it might be growth or it might be collaboration or whatever it is. And this time it was growth. And the first thing that came to mind was, why are we talking about growth? Like everything that I read on a daily basis, everything I see, it's sort of doom and gloom. Worker shortages, uh, impending recessions, AI is coming. It's going to take over. It's going to take all our jobs, and we're going to be replaced. It doesn't sound like things are growing. It sounds like things are contracting. If we didn't know any better, we should all be running for cover and shuttering our businesses and you know holding on tight because we don't know what's coming next. But the thing to remember is that in any impending down market or in any down market, the way that you grow is to forge ahead, not to recede and take cover. It's now when you start planting those seeds and thinking differently that when you come out of any down period, that when you come out, things are going to be going gangbusters. Things are going to be growing because you're much better positioned than if you're coming off your back foot. So from that perspective, thinking about it, I was like, wow, growth is actually a really great topic for us to explore. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I do is being out in the marketplace, talking to people, whether they're the OEs, vendors, suppliers, tier one suppliers, and getting their perspective on how their businesses are running and what is it that they're doing. Based on all of that, so consolidating that information and those thoughts and insights, what we've come up with for today are 5 key growth strategies for you and your business as you sit there listening to this. Now, it's important to remember that this isn't just for a down market. Any of the strategies that I talk about today are going to be incredibly relevant in a growth market as well. They're fundamental, very sound strategies, but ones that will really take you forward. They're incredibly relevant for today because they're derived from the sorts of challenges that we're facing day to day, which could be technology, it could be regulation and mandates, it could be people problems. But again, they're all very salient and they're all relevant. So let's talk about a few of them. The first one that I want to talk about is this idea of collaboration. So when we think about collaboration, it's usually a meeting of the mind. It's usually people, working together. In fact, I went and I got the most cliche picture I could possibly find to exemplify collaboration, which is 2 people shaking hands and smiling and saying, yes, we're going to do it. However, that's not really what we're talking about in this case. Yeah, it's certainly about working together, but collaboration has expanded into a new realm. So now it's not just working together, it's funding things together. It's, putting your money where your mouth is and really investing in things together. That's a whole different thing. And why is this important? Because one of the things that I see and one of the things that our company sees is that as this market continues to evolve and develop, it's becoming incredibly complex. So, we deliver a truck to a customer. It's not just a truck anymore of any size, shape, or caliber. Now it comes with ECUs and body modules and sensors and screens. When I talk about software, fleet management software to companies, you can take a sliver of it and run your business. But if you dive into the full potential of an FMS system today, you could literally launch a rocket. You could launch the space shuttle. That's how complex this stuff is getting. And navigating through that environment, whether it be on the ground or in the office or any other place, it's becoming incredibly complex. So at one of the conferences I was at a little while back, and I mean, if you've listened to me, you will have heard me mention this before, but I hear people from PepsiCo and from Volvo, heads of these companies saying, we don't want to do it all by ourselves. We don't want to do it all internally, or P3, public-private partnerships, is the new leadership. These are the biggest companies in the world, and they're making it clear that they need help and that they want assistance working through this market. Typically a company like an Amazon or Walmart or anybody else is looking for vertical integration. We want to keep it all in-house and manage it because that's where efficiencies are, economies of scale lie, and they're not wrong. But if you see these big companies reaching out to other subject matter experts and leaders in the industry, you have to know that they think that there's value in working with people who are experts. So collaboration is a very big deal and certainly not to be underestimated. Now, I think the important thing here is to think about it in the terms of, let's say, a fleet manager. For someone who is on the ground, decision making used to be incredibly straightforward. We want it, we validated it, we need it, we're going to go buy it. Not today. Now, today, if you talk to a fleet manager or an operations manager or a transportation manager, they have to talk to internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, techs, consultants, just to figure out what is it that we need to be doing. So, that guy with the arrow right there, it's his decision maker, they want to get to that person, but the very first thing that person's going to ask is, have you talked to everybody else? Have you done your due diligence, and are we going the right direction? So it's no wonder that companies now are looking to join with people or others who are strong partners, who are leaders in their field. And how does this relate back to you? Well, anybody listening to this call, now is your opportunity to position yourself accordingly as a market leader, as a thought leader, as an innovator, because companies are out there saying, we need to band together with others so that we can survive. You can see there's a consolidation and contraction that's happening in the market where big companies are swallowing up all the small companies. They have for forever, but now it's even exponentially more important because with that acquisition comes a whole lot of knowledge and the ability to work your way through a market. So that would be growth opportunity number one. What's number two? This one I love. Not every business lives on the cutting edge. So when we think of small, medium enterprise in particular, there's no shortage of companies that are running on scrap pieces of paper, Excel sheets. I mean, if everybody was in a room right now, I'm sure there'd be lots of chuckles because everybody knows that there's tons of companies who rely on Excel sheets and macros to let them know, hey, it's time to service our trucks, or it's time to dispose of something and get something else in the fleet. Like, it's crazy to think that you have multi-million-dollar companies that are working off spreadsheets, but they are. It's no joke. One of the big things or not one of the big things, but it's funny because one of my friends, he's a good friend of mine, and he runs a fabrication shop. He's got a very successful fabrication shop in San Diego. You know, they operate worldwide. They're they're doing really well. But he himself is a bit of a Luddite. You know, not interested in technology, not interested in anything that supports. If he could do it all by hand, he would. He comes up to me the other day and he goes, "Look at this, watch this." He takes his phone out, he taps a text that he got from FedEx and holds it down, like holds his finger on the screen, and his device takes that tracking number, takes him to the FedEx site, opens up a screen, and gives him all of his shipping information on something that's coming from China. And he's blown away. Like his mind is blown away. Like, this is fantastic. This is amazing. And you know what? It is amazing. It's amazing that you can have that sort of technology in your pocket to help you with your business. And that's exactly what he was doing, was leveraging that. But guess what? That guy on the screen, and I don't know him or his colleague who are cutting wood in the kitchen. I don't know them, but there's lots of people, lots of businesses out there who have no interest in that level of technology. What they want to do is get up, go to work, get the job done, and then come back and go home. You know, running a business is almost a secondary thing because their primary business is their vocation, not their trucks, not their software, not all that other stuff. So guess what? Not every company out there wants all that new technology, nor are they looking to adopt it. They probably don't even know how to use it. So this is where it becomes very important to think about things like when it comes to, let's say, a battery electric vehicle. And I see this all the time. We go and we talk to these companies and we say, let's talk about BEVs and fuel cells, et cetera. And they say things like, how much can it carry? What about if I'm going up and down hills? What about if I have to install chargers? Like, how long is it going to take to get power? How am I supposed to work with the utility? It's an incredibly complex market for a small or medium enterprise, especially when they don't have the help to navigate through this business. So where you sort of fit into this picture is that these same companies are looking to you, everybody listening, for your expertise and guidance. And this is an actual quote. This is a quote from somebody I interviewed, not this person on the screen, but certainly it is a real quote. And they said, you know what? Sometimes you just need that outside party to say to you, actually, you know what? If you did it this way, it would be so much better and so much more efficient. They want their requests for input and guidance on how to steer through those business challenges to come from you. And as experts in this field, as experts in your own specific areas, that's an opportunity for you. That's a huge opportunity that you can leverage going forward, is almost you become the consultant. You be the one who advises them on what to do. And they'll value that because you are basically a trusted advisor. It's not to imply that you need to charge for it. Maybe that is the opportunity, but certainly that notion of collaboration and partnership goes hand in hand with this idea of you conveying expertise and guidance to your customers. Further, if you can build a business or a part of your business model on that, it puts you in an even stronger position, because it's all I hear all day long is, help me get through this. Who can I talk to? All right. Let's talk about another one. BEVs, right? Battery electric vehicles. It's on the tip of everybody's tongue. It seems to be all we can talk about. Every single day, my inbox is flooded with news bits, conferences, information on BEVs, and how they're either the greatest thing since sliced bread or the worst thing since sliced bread. Sorry, that's the only metaphor I could come up with. But you see where I'm going. It's either, the best or the worst. The thing is, BEVs actually are a great option, but you have to look at it from a use case scenario. And, you heard Andrew talk a little bit about it this morning, about the growth in the alt powertrain areas, the specific areas that are going to grow the highest and most, and where the opportunities lie. That's because in some use cases, they make perfect sense. We talk about it all day long, right? If you've got routes that are fixed or highly predictable, they make great sense. If you're using them in a city or a dense urban environment, they make great sense. If they come home every night and you can charge them, they're perfect. I mean, the premise of a BEV is actually smart, right? You're saying we're going to reduce your maintenance, we're going to dramatically reduce your fuel costs, um, your NVH for your employees, so your noise and harshness, vibration, all that's going to go away. You're going to get all sorts of benefits from a connected vehicle. So now, from a business perspective, you have tons more data that you can analyze and start to optimize your business. So let's be honest, from an operational perspective, in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, they're awesome, and everybody should be at least looking at them to see if they make sense. The other thing that we need to be honest about is from a regulatory and mandatory perspective, they're not going away anytime soon. We might see things like rollbacks on when things come to market, but certainly BEVs aren't going away. That's So we sort of need to live with them. We need to sort of accept that and say, okay, how do we make the best of this opportunity? Because it really is an opportunity. But the other thing that I see is a ton of pushback. It's In some cases it's knee jerk, but in some cases it's a valid reaction to having to adopt these. There's a reason for this though. And one of the key reasons is that BEVs are right now at least almost prescribed as a blanket solution, even though their benefits tend to be use case specific. Doesn't mean we shouldn't look at them, but from a consumer perspective or a user perspective, and this is where it becomes important, we have to talk to them in a different way. So it's not about having to adopt an electric vehicle. It's more about let us talk to you a little bit about what it's like to live with an electric vehicle. Because I think the thing that I hear the most, every single time we do groups or interviews or whatever it is, or go talk to people and we say, talk to us about electric vehicles, they go, I have no idea. Maybe my neighbor has a Tesla, or maybe I've seen a Lightning driving around, or whatever it might be. But on a personal level, I really have no experience with this. It's a completely different animal. And we're talking about a marketplace like the commercial vehicle market is not big on change. It moves pretty slowly, and that predictability is its strength. That's where you get your costs, your cost savings and your economies, because it's not turning around every single day. But it also means that now we're trying to inject something completely new into this market where people aren't particularly keen to adopt new things. So we often talk about this idea of education. Like, you need to educate this market on what it's like to, how far it goes, how to charge it, how to install charge. Yeah, we kind of do. But I think more important than that is increasing this familiarity with the vehicle. You know, if you start to talk to someone and you say, what is it that you want to know? Well, they basically want to know, is it going to get my load where it needs to go, whether it be passengers or equipment where it needs to go? Is it going to need to be able to come back? What's it like to drive? What should I do with it? Those aren't education questions. Education questions are technical things. Familiarity things are, help me feel comfortable with what it is you're suggesting I use. So you have to ask yourself this question. If someone came into your business, or someone called you or emailed you and asked you that familiarity question, how familiar are you with electric vehicles? Can you answer their questions? Can you put them at ease and make them feel like, hey, this might be a viable option and it needs more investigation? So that's on us as an industry to sort of ramp up our own knowledge and then be able to disseminate it in a way that's palatable and attractive to our user base. So it's not so much, are people rejecting it, as much as people are scared and they need to figure out a way to sort of become more comfortable with that sort of thing. Next up, resistance is futile. Open mindset's the way forward. I love this guy because honestly, it's a stock photo, and I bet you this dude is like the nicest guy ever, but he's just portrayed as so mean. But he's probably the guy who brings you cookies and welcomes you to the neighborhood. It's funny, but no, I have him there as the bad guy. But he's a metaphor for this idea of resistance, right? And this is a real thing. It's shocking to hear just how resistant a lot of companies and even individuals in the CV space are to new or different things. And it's just because, again, they're sort of scared of what they don't know. And I'll give you two examples. So I was riding along we were testing a new Class 8 tractor. It was an electric. So brand new, people hadn't really seen it. People weren't familiar with it. We're at a DC, so we're in a distribution center. We're in the yard, and we're hooking up a dry van, a trailer. And as we're doing it, another outside carrier driver stops, comes up to us, and starts asking questions, starts checking it out. And so we're listening to him, and all he has is this whole negative sentiment like, it's not low enough, it's not going to be tow enough, it looks uncomfortable, looks heavy, all sorts of stuff. And so I talked to my driver, the guy who I was with, and I was like, that guy? He's like, yeah. What's his beef? And the answer is, you know what? He's made it clear that he just doesn't like electric vehicles. And so there was no amount of convincing this guy on the benefits of it, even though he had no idea that the technology in this truck makes it a game changer. It's that mindset that's stopping him from being open to new and different solutions. And that's pretty rampant in the industry. So, again, we sort of have to ask ourselves, what is it that's holding people back? And it's that level of comfort. But there's something else. And this is the second example. And that is we're at a trade show. And I was there actually with Andrew. So, of course, you guys remember Andrew from the opening. And the two of us were doing the drive test where, you hop on board, they take you out, you get to experience the new vehicles. And we were in a step van, and it was a traditional step van with an electric motor conversion in it. And while we're in it, I'm standing in the back, Andrew and the driver up front. We're driving along, and I'm about 2 feet behind these two guys, and I literally cannot hear a word anybody is saying. It is so loud in that thing, even though it's got an electric powertrain, that I couldn't hear one single word. So when we stopped, I asked him, and I said, "Hey, I go, it's super loud back there, and I imagine if you're driving this thing every day, it's even worse." I go, is anybody asking for, reduced NVH or less noise? And what is it that you guys are doing about it? And he sort of turned to me and he was sort of like, tut, tut, tut. Like, and he said, we've been doing this a long time, and I think we know what we're doing. And that's cool. I had no problem with that. But that sort of mindset, that sort of business philosophy is a real quick way to hurt your business. That mindset works when you have a monopoly or when you're a key player in the marketplace. But just given all of the new offerings that are out there, as companies and as businesses, we can't afford to have a myopic mindset or operate with blinders. We have to be saying, hey, you know what? You're right. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to deliver new USPs, new selling propositions. So it's funny to hear how resistance and reluctance to change comes both from outside of the industry and inside the industry itself. Now, to be fair to customers who reject things, it's not their responsibility to be convinced. It's up to us as an industry to communicate compelling selling propositions, especially when it comes to technology, making it attractive to them and helping them understand the benefits is where the opportunity lies. All right, and for this last opportunity, it's this idea that owners and operators and enterprise itself often feels very siloed when it comes to operating every single day. They They feel like they're on their own, but they'll never tell you that. And ironically, when it comes to this idea of sharing information, they love it. But again, they don't tell you. They're happy, many of them are happy to go to these conferences. Why? Because of this idea of crowdsourcing. That is, that the collective intelligence is more powerful than single intelligence. So there's a couple of quotes up here, recognizing that the crowd is more than wise, it's talented, creative, and stunningly productive. That came from the power of the crowd is driving the future of business. Or the advantages of crowdsourcing include lowered costs, improved speed, quality, flexibility, and or the scalability of work. You have to know that tapping into the crowd is an especially good way to get information to help your business. One of the things that I hear when I talk to business owners is I say, hey, what's on your wish list? And they say, you know what? Collaborating with other fleet managers who have the same problems helps my business. That's what I want. And so you have to know that from your perspective as again, everybody on this call, the big deal is when you bring together and share your wealth of knowledge and information, there's a lot of brand value there. There's value for you as a company. All right. I'm gonna wrap up. And so what I want to do is sort of summarize these 5 things, and then I see there's at least one quick question here, which I'll get to. So what are the 5 essential takeaways? Well, when it comes to collaboration, it's an essential in the marketplace. Whether you're an OEM or a vendor or a supplier or an upfitter or a dealer who's on this call, your growth opportunity is to build strategic partnerships like right now. Start positioning yourself as essential, a thought leader and an innovator, and companies will come calling because that's exactly what they're looking for right now. When you become part of a consortium, then your power becomes exponentially greater. Consulting and expertise. SMEs are looking for guidance on all of their questions and concerns. It's really complex and intimidating for them when they don't know what they're dealing with. And again, you're sort of the bearers of that knowledge, so it's a great opportunity for you. BEVs might be the perfect antidote. They might be, not for everybody, but for some of them they are. So now it's not a case of talking about specs. It's more along the lines of what's it like to live with a BEV. You do this company by company, and then all of a sudden you have the opportunity to start selling more and become, again, that sort of valued, trusted advisor. An open mindset is the only way forward. It's up to us to put ourselves in the shoes of the customer and understand their needs. Cultivating that open mindset, again, not even just from the external perspective, but even within our industry, is how you go forward. And then this last one, leveraging your knowledge builds brand equity. So once a customer or a client realizes that their problems are not unique to them and that you're the intermediary, then all of a sudden you have their ear and you have their attention. So those are sort of 5 of the key growth strategies. It's funny because in this world right now, it just seems like human interaction sort of on the decline, but really it's that human interaction and not the selling or the automation where the real growth potential lies. So that's really where we should be focused. All right, cool. I see that we have -1 seconds. So hopefully I can get to this question real quick. By the way, if there's any questions, that's where you can reach me. But the question is, from a commercial vehicle dealership, how do we proactively transition small business owners, those not on the bleeding edge, to this new world environment about alternative fuels where appropriate, and establish ourselves as the expert as you suggested, especially if we don't have a large team, the ability to create content and educate them? Where or how do we start? What are a couple of practical steps? Okay, great. That's actually a great question. The short answer is the very first thing is educating yourself. So I don't want to be presumptuous and say either you know a lot or you don't know anything, But certainly with the amount of knowledge and information that's sort of flowing into the marketplace, it's really important that you be able to answer questions even before they're asked. Like you literally have to be steps ahead of your customer before they ask the questions to build that trust. Another really great way is to bring people together. So that was one of the suggestions that I had towards the end. They're looking for this, not collaboration, but knowledge centers. So imagine if you did a quick online thing, or brought together some customers for a, it sounds cliche, but a sort of lunch and learn where you bring them together and you start talking to them about things that you see happening in the industry and things that they need to be aware of. Then that's another really great way to do it, because you get to see them face to face. You establish yourself as an expert, and then you're bringing them value. You're literally bringing them in to get value. And then the third thing is, and you've talked about it, not being able to create content is a big challenge because there's so much of it. But what we see is a lot of people creating sort of these newsletters where all they do is find out the sources of info and compile them into almost a set of links for people. And then they send these out to their customers and say, hey, you know what? We don't have all the info, but if you go and you want to do some more investigation, this is where you can find it. Those are three really great, quick ways to do it. All right, I got to wrap. I'm getting the music. So again, if there's any other questions or you want to talk to me some more, all the info is on the screen. And we'll see you when I moderate the panel tomorrow. Thanks so much.